What's going on, everybody? Let the room fill up a little bit here. Everybody that's watching this after hours, thanks for watching. Let a couple people join in. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully everyone is having a good week. We're trying something new tonight. We're going to see how this goes. I have two cameras in front of me, so I'll be watching the live chat over here and answering your questions. There's going to be a little bit of a delay with how I have everything set up, so bear with me on that. Bear with me on getting everything to work correctly. So if you haven't been here before, sure everything should be. So someone verify, please, that they can hear me. Need to make sure that somebody can hear me and I'm not just talking nobody. Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So um, let's get right into it. What I'm trying to do here ultimately is to bring you guys more info to help you guys out. This is something new that I'm messing around with. My good buddy Victor, who is watching me right now, thank you, Victor, set me all up. He's a big video game streamer. As I said, I think before, he's on Twitch. I'll put his link down below because he came by after hours to help me out. So what you see in the background right now is Haltech, and I got that open for now. So we want to do a little DIY here. So I'll speak a little bit louder because I don't want to go in the program and screw anything up where you can't hear me. Hopefully you guys can hear me. If not, put the phone up to your ear. So basically what we're trying to do here, I got a couple things I want to cover. The other thing too now that I'm going to keep ultimately doing during this live, when I answer a question, I'm going to actually read it off first because I had a customer last week actually brought up a good point that he's not able to watch my live videos at night, but he's able to listen to them on the drive to work in the morning. So it's almost going to be like a little podcast type deal where if you're driving on the way to work, you can hear this, and maybe make your morning or afternoon fun. If it's your first time joining me on a Thursday night live, basically we just shoot the shit and we talk about anything and everything, but we try to keep some things out of it, like political stuff. We don't need to go there. But let's talk this week about the snow, as I'm going to ramp up and I'm going to get into Haltech actually right here. But that snow this week, I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal on everybody here, not only because it makes our job 10 times harder. The snow drips on you constantly. Your feet are constantly wet. We have about 22 more days, 23 more days or so until the spring time change, and then till spring starts. So that's a plus. But what I have here too, we're going to go right into it, is I have Haltech open. And as you're going to see here, I'm going to start squiggling stuff around here, and you're going to see everything I'm doing. So the main reason I have Haltech open is a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned how we have this new product coming out for for Hondas, mostly Hondas. It will be towards every other chassis, but right now it's just specific Honda platforms. I got a couple questions about the software and how easy it is to use, or how, I'm familiar with Hondata. People were telling me how easy is Haltech to use. And right now we have the software that's actually open up, that if you purchase the Elite, the 550, which we're selling, and if you're interested, please shoot us a message. I know I got to return one phone call. I think your name, Will, I got to call you after hours. Another Will. But basically, so I went live and I was talking about this a little bit, how Haltech is nice and easy to mess with. And if you've messed with any other program, let's just say Hondata, the cool thing about Haltech is you can click on anything, and they're going to have basically a little, that might not be a good one to click on, but they're going to have over here on the bottom corner, the bottom left corner, and you might not be able to see my mouse. I think oh, no, you can see my mouse. There it goes. In that bottom left corner, you're going to see an explanation on what exactly you're changing and what everything does. So as you can see down here, it's going to give you a pretty good description, where if you're not familiar with tuning, you can always read, and you can always go and Google. That's what I always tell people. You know, if there's something that you're not familiar with, we've been an ongoing thing this week where I do a lot of YouTube videos. I do Facebook Live. It's great that people watch me. Don't get me wrong, but we get a lot of phone calls where guys specifically want to talk to me just for technical help. And at the end of the day, you got to remember that I'm still running a business, and it's, you know, if I'm dyno tuning, I can't just jump off the phone to answer a question for you. So we got Haltech open. I just wanted to show you guys that really quick. I have Hondata S300 stuff over here on the bottom too that I'm going to show you guys how to create a quick, easy base map from scratch, because that's a lot of things. If you buy the S300 from us, we actually provide it for free. But a lot of guys too don't know how to get set up. We have a YouTube video on it, but it's another little plus thing too to have. So this is Haltech in a nutshell, and everything over here that you can change and control. You got your fuel settings and all this stuff over here. You got the 3D map if you want. You can also do a 2D map. Very, very easy to change. All my gauges are up here. They're not highlighted because it's not connected to a car. So you can always switch back to that if we want. Anyone's got any questions? As I say, always ask. I will answer them. I am reading stuff here. Yes, the snow is just, we want the snow to be gone by now. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Bring on spring. Victor, I appreciate everything you've done tonight to help me get here, to get this in the background and not just my face. So that's a plus. Oh, and let me say this. We had a good friend slash customer realize I was going live. So not only did he bring me this, just had another customer drop me off two cases of these. So I'm pretty stocked. I appreciate that, guys. Going into it, I'll flip over here to Hondata. We got S300 open, and this is my view right now. This is how I have everything set up. And what you're going to see here, ultimately, I'm going to show you how to start real quick with a base map and how to start your vehicle up. And the most common stuff. This ain't going to answer everything, and this is not going to ultimately lead to you fully tuning your car, but it's going to help you get it started nonetheless. So first and foremost, and if you guys got questions, as I'm looking over at my phone, because I'm so used to looking on my phone for live videos, but I'm also going off the chat. Ask questions. I'm here to help. This is a little free time that I have, and it's for you guys. Florida. Sounds a lot nicer than over here, Will. Hopefully you have a good time. Hopefully you're doing some family stuff out there, man. You know how much your family means to you. So as I'm opening this up, click on File, New Calibration. No matter what you have, this is just my recommendation. You don't have to start with it. I always start with the stock everything right here, the ITR map. Start with something fresh and clean. Don't start, yes, these are tunes and whatnot, bigger injectors. You're going to have a better, my personal opinion is you're going to have a better starting point when you're starting with the stock one. So we'll open that up. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Victor. Give me a second. Okay, let's see if that changes. I'm going to let the delay catch up here. There you go. So it all changes. So I'm going to actually restart from scratch, and I'm going to show you guys what I just did because I'm still a noob at all this and the software, but I got Victor there helping me. So thank you, Victor. So to start with a tune, file new. We don't want to save that. Start with the ITR stock. It's going to be easier. So now the biggest thing, let's say you got a build. Let's say it's H22. Okay, so what you got to do, you got to go to parameters, and you're going to get this window. Now, you never tuned before, and you have this open. And a lot of stuff is self-explanatory. I mean, let's be honest here. Let's look at the first easy thing, fuel injectors. I click on that. It's going to open up here. So you got a bigger setup, and you got bigger injectors. Easy, right? Stock injector size is 240. Current injector size. Let's start with something easy, as usually everybody's running 1,000 cc's, and that's what I recommend. 1,000 cc's. Perfect. That's all you're doing. So right underneath, you got injector voltage dead time. Now, if you're not familiar with injector voltage dead time, or whatever any other program calls it, or you got a little sheet and they call it something else, injector latency, you can go Google that, but basically it's how long it takes for that injector to open and close once it receives the signal from the computer. This is very important to set. If you don't set this, it's going to cause, you're just not starting with a good starting point. There's no way around it. So let's just go with a popular injector dynamics, 1,000 cc's. And if you look over here where the dead times are listed, you're going to watch those numbers change. All those numbers change. So that's the basic setup of how you're going to calibrate your injector sizing. Really simple. Any good injector, and I can't stress this enough, because if you buy a crappy set of injectors off eBay, if you buy a set of used injectors that your buddy had in his toolbox, maybe they were stuffed behind like a burrito, and there's no dead time card, there's nothing. I mean, it's going to make everything that much harder, and it makes your tuner's life that much harder as well. We sell a lot of fuel injector clinic injectors, and they actually come with the card that's set up for each injector batch. So if you lose those, you're kind of screwed. They don't have them. So we always tell people to hold on to that. So go back here and click on that. So now the other thing too, simple enough. And if you've never been in this program, we're gonna hold your hand. Not a problem, Juan. Not a problem. Hopefully they should get there to you by. We dropped them off yesterday. They should be there tomorrow if they're not there yet. But so map sensor. Let's say you're running a boosted. You got a boosted H22. Well, in order to run more boost than a stock map sensor can handle, you're going to get a replacement map sensor. 99% of the times, you're going to go with the most popular one down here, which is going to be the Hondata / OmniPower. Never heard of OmniPower before. That's really going to show you how old you are, and I should say how young you are. I think OmniPower is still around, I believe, but they aren't around as much as they used to be. So we're going to switch to the 4-bar map sensor. That's simple. You're done with that. So basically now you can go to the miscellaneous tab. The miscellaneous tab is going to be, does your motor have a knock sensor? Most motors nowadays don't have a knock sensor. Or your motor's not set up for it, or maybe you broke it. The older knock sensors, they're not the greatest anyways, so no big deal. Disable knock sensor. Perfect, you got them, Juan. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate the business. The ELD. So if you're not familiar with ELD, it's the electric load detector or detection, whatever you want to call it. Basically, this is, if you have some kind of wiring issue, you're going to throw this check engine light. I can't stress enough that you don't want to disable this unless you have a valid reason. If you know you have a wiring issue that you purposely did, let's say you wired up an O2 sensor. This is a great example because I had a car. Let's say you wired up an O2 sensor, but the wiring is wrong. we'll disable the ELD. As you go down in line, you really don't want to disable anything else in here except the alternator control. The alternator control, basically, it will control the alternator, so it's not supposed to charge at idle. The older cars, it really doesn't affect it that much. It doesn't change. Even the newer cars that go off Flash Pro, that setting wants to work when it wants to work. Either everybody's quiet tonight or everybody's just intrigued by stuff I'm actually doing and you're not just looking at my face. Either way, if you got questions, let me know. I'm here to help. I'm not getting any questions, but so disable alternator control, not a huge deal. Leave everything else here. If you got to disable the IAT, you want an IAT sensor while you're tuning. I mean, you just do. There's no way around it. Now, a lot of guys, if the intake air temperature sensor, the connector, is the same connector as I think the purge solenoid connector. So if you cross those two around, you will literally melt the intake air temperature sensor. You'll throw a code, or your car will read 200 degrees when it's 40 degrees out, which is horrible for the tune. As you progress and you understand tuning more so, you'll understand why. Disable ECT sensor, which is the engine coolant temperature. No reason to. None. If you have an engine cooling temperature issue, fix it before you start tuning the car or even trying to do this. Don't put band-aids over problems that exist. It's going to make your life that much harder. So that's pretty much where you want it, right there. That's pretty much set up. You can go to closed loop. These older cars, the older cars can't, unless you have a wideband hooked up to it. At the same time, the stock computer can't really process it fast enough. I recommend going to open loop and just disabling closed loop altogether. Over here, you got your TPS settings. Normally, this would be highlighted over here where I can click on it. Basically, this is going to be closed. So when the throttle is closed, you hit read. And when you hit the throttle wide open 100%, you hit read again. And it should read fairly close to 100%. If you're off a little bit, then maybe your TPS needs to be recalibrated. So I'm going to take a second. I'll answer some questions. And if you're just joining me, I mentioned that I'm going to repeat the questions. So ultimately, if you're going to listen to this later on in your car, you can listen to it and understand what I'm talking about. What's going on, Alex? So Alex wants to know, what do you think about the Skunk 2 exhaust for an RSX compared to the Nvidia exhaust you carry? The Skunk 2 has a 76 millimeter piping, and the Nvidia has a 70 millimeter piping. I was going to get the HKS high power exhaust. Hold on, let me see if I can open that. But that one is 60 millimeters. What's going on, Alex? You actually talked to me earlier this week about that. I believe it was you, unless we got two questions that were asked same week. My personal opinion, from what everybody tells me, a lot more people like the Nvidia exhaust sound compared to the Skunk 2 exhaust sound. Now, yes, the Skunk 2 is a little bit bigger, but it's not going to really hinder your performance for what you're trying to do. If you're a super huge setup, maybe trying to make the last drip of power, then I would say go with the Skunk 2. But at the end of the day, majority of these cars are street-driven cars, and you have to take in consideration the sound of the exhaust. It's no fun driving a car when your ears are bleeding. What's going to happen is over a couple of months, you're just going to say, I'm done with this exhaust. I'm going to sell it. I need to get something quieter. A lot of our customers prefer the Nvidia exhaust sound over the Skunk 2. And I will say a lot of their wives or girlfriends actually like the Nvidia over the Skunk 2. And we do get that a lot, where customers' wives or girlfriends are not happy with the sound. What's going on, Anthony? So Anthony asked what I am working on and what I can, what are we, so this evening, I'm working on this right in front of me. This whole new setup is all new to me. Trying to manage everything and not screw up. I screwed up a little bit earlier where I had Haltech open still on my end. I'm sorry, Haltech on your end, but S300 on my end. So this is what I'm doing tonight. I'm having a beer supplied by a customer. Stop by really quick. Not even a customer. I'll say he's a good friend after he was a customer. which in the years of doing this, a lot of customers have become very close friends here with me, and it's a great thing. It's a very, very good thing, and that's what makes this industry and hobby, the car industry, or whatever you want to call it, the import. It's just there's nothing that compares to it, honestly. At least that's my personal opinion. Um, and you can't really describe to people if you're not a car person. It's really hard to describe to somebody. Or let me rephrase that. If you're trying to describe to a non-car person what the community is about, it's super hard. It is very hard. And that goes without saying as well. Um, I always tell people I've been to customers. I stood up in their weddings. I've been to hospitals when they have babies, and unfortunately, I've been to funerals and wakes and whatnot. So, but it's a big family. So what's going on, John? So I'm going to read John's message here. I stopped by yesterday to pick up my chip for my GSR EK. He's having a few issues. The idle is a little rough, and two-step is not working. RPMs drop when I try to hold on. The RPMs drop when I try it, and when the engine is off and wide open throttle, the check engine lights turn on. Thinking it's a bad TPS sensor, or should I try to replace the entire throttle body? So what's going on, John? First and foremost, I appreciate your business and support. So when you hit the throttle, wide open throttle, when the car is off and the check engine light flashes or it goes on, it's actually normal. So disregard that. My first thing that I would tell you is there a check engine light? So on OBD1 Honda cars, there's a little plug, passenger side upper kick panel inside the car. It's a two-prong connector. Jump that with a paper clip and your check engine light will flash, and that is going to tell you what your code is. So if you have 7 flashes, you got a code 7. If I recall correctly, a code 7 is a TPS. Now, if you have one long flash, which means 10, and then you have 2 quick flashes right afterwards, that's code 12. What you got to remember too is Honda always does codes from shortest to longest. So you'll get a code 2 before you get a code 10. So if you're counting in between, just restart, write down if you have a code. It sounds like to me, sounds like you're going to have an issue with, sounds like you might have 2 issues. So the idle issue might be something to do with your idle air control valve or your IACV. The two-step issue, which people got to remember, for two-step to work properly, your car needs to be able to read either the TPS or the mile per hour. So you might be having a TPS issue, but ultimately, if you have a TPS issue, the car should be throwing a check engine light for it. Is the check engine light on for it, John? I'm going to wait for your response here, and don't forget we're a little bit delayed here because we're going through a streaming service, yada, yada, yada. Go back and make sure I miss no other message. Perfect. So as we go back here, and I kick my little table over here, we got the TPS over here in the settings on Hondata. That's the other thing too, the benefit of going with the Hondata over a chip DCU. You can simply, since we're talking about it, click on air codes, and that's going to tell you exactly what air codes you have come up. Of course, there's no car that we're connected to, so we're not going to have any check engine lights right now. And if you're listening to this after our live show, a little box up on the top that says air codes. Or you can click on online, and you can click on, well, you can clear your ETCs. You read them from here. No, I don't think you can read them from here. You might be able to, but we're getting off our subject and topic. So John replied back, and he said, yes, the check engine light is on, and he knows the paperclip method, but he thought that was just EGDC thing only, but he'll make sure to check it out tomorrow, and your speedometer is functioning. So you're getting there, John. Yes, the paperclip thing, though, is for any of these cars with a chip DCU. It should work the same. Even the newer Hondas, if you're on like a 2000 Civic, it's all the same stuff. It should all be there. You should still have the connector, and you should be golden on that one. Let me know what check engine lights you have, though. Contact us, and I will I'll help you out a little bit more. So I'm going to go back here real quick to the tune process. So you got your map sensor set up. You have your fuel injectors set up. So at this point, the other thing you want to do, this should actually almost get your car started to a point. Now, if let's say you have a bigger cam, the car is going to require more fuel. You can always go over here and click tables. What you're going to be looking for is this little icon that looks like a fuel injector squirting. Excuse me, which is the low speed table. We're going to minimize this a little bit. Do this. So let's say your car cranks, doesn't want to start up, or it doesn't want to stay running. Your car might need a little bit more fuel. If you got a bigger camshaft, you got whatever, different compression, whatever it is, you need a little bit more fuel at startup. You can simply highlight all these boxes. You can do a little right click. You can click adjust, and then you can change your percentage of fuel. Depending what you want to do, you can do it by percentage. You can add a selected value, or we don't recommend doing the last one because you're going to have all the tables go crazy. But let's just say you want to add 5% of more fuel. Perfect. We add 5. Click. Boom. So you're going to increase the fuel. Now your car might want to run. So now as I got this open, this is the fueling table down here. Let's get rid of the fuel table. Get rid of these to make your life a little bit easier. So what we have over here, little guy's hiding. Okay, so what we have up here are some main sensors. You got your intake air temperature sensor, you got your engine coolant temperature sensor, and you got your battery voltage. You got your TPS, of course, and all the other stuff. Analog PSI, we can get rid of that. We'll keep things simple for everybody. So these are kind of the main sensors right here. Not even the RPM, but the map sensor. If you connect, which there's a lightning bolt here, which if you're connected to a car, if you're hooked up to a car, the lightning bolt will actually light up, and you can click connect. Ultimately, you click it, and all these sensors should liven up. I call it live up, whatever you want to call it. You'll see how cold your motor is. Right now, it's about 70 degrees in the shop as the heater's on in the background. So the ECT should be about 70. Intake air temperature should be about the same too, 70 degrees. So these kind of want to be the same. The PSI, a lot of guys screw this one up. Let's say you did a swap. A lot of guys confuse the map sensor plug and the TPS plug. They're the same exact plug. Why Honda does this, I don't know. Step on the throttle and see if this wants to move, the TPS. If it doesn't want to move, but your map sensor starts acting funky, switch the connectors around. Switch them around inside the engine bay. And then ultimately you can see where your battery voltage is. If you're cranking the car over, your battery voltage shouldn't drop below 8 volts. If it drops below 8 volts, get a charger on it, get a stronger battery on it. That ultimately should start your car up. All the basic stuff is taken care of. And as it starts up, well, we got other stuff too. We can always open up and we can always go into. I don't want to go too far ahead of everybody here, and I don't want to confuse a lot of people, so I won't even open up, but we can do some data logging if we wanted to do a startup of a car. The data logging would all show here. We'll save that for another night, I believe. Making sure I didn't miss any questions. If anyone's got questions, feel free to ask. We're a little light on the questions tonight. Either it's a slow night or everybody's just amused by Hondata. which, no more questions here, so I'll go over something really quick. We'll pull up a data log really quick and we'll open it up. Okay, so what you see here is a live data log captured either on the dyno or during a street pull type deal. What we're gonna do is we're gonna close this window up, and I'm gonna keep myself busy here. And so if anyone else has got questions, I will answer them. If not, it will be a shorter night, and I get to go home early and spend time with my family. We got a data log that is open down here, and this is basically how I have everything set up, and this is how I like it. So what you're looking at here ultimately is, we'll start off down below here on the bottom graph. The green bar is going to be the TPS. So this little guy right here is the TPS. That's when your throttle is going to be wide open throttle. Now, as you see up here, everything is reading correctly. 11% on the throttle right now, 37 miles per hour. And you got a 161 degree temperature, 65 degree intake air temperature, and your map sensor is reading 15 vacuum. Probably a better technical term for that. And we can always add stuff. If you right click up here, you can click a new value. Let's change this. I'm going to go back to something really, really quick before I forget here. Let's say you want here injector duty cycle. So that's going to be your duty cycle. That's going to be how much your injectors are working. One thing I forgot, once you do start your car up, you're going to want to go to online, and then there's going to be set timing. You want to set your timing light. You got to have a timing light to set timing. Once you hit set timing, it's going to lock timing at 16 degrees on the car, and then you got to actually physically move the distributor so you match it up. Hondata goes off the timing being correct. So if your distributor is off timing wise, everything in the program is going to be off. So that's a big step that I recommend doing. So back to the data log. Appreciate you guys. I'm reading more questions. So Marco asked, hey Bob, how tight are you with tunes? I got a buddy, first time customer trying to tune his 350Z. Good question, Marco. Right now, so if Marco, you've been here before, but how I operate is we keep things revolving here. We want cars in and out. We want the dyno open. Right now I have some open spots. It's going to be a little backed up because a couple of guys canceled for this week because of the snow, but I can get them in as early as next week. I got a couple of open spots left. So you let me know, send me a message. Let me know what he's being tuned on. If he's tuning on uprev, if he's got uprev, if he needs to buy uprev, we could set him up. Such and such. John, I'm going to read it's not really a question, but John mentioned people here need to take advantage of the opportunity to have their questions answered. Not every day a tuner takes the time out of their day to help others. John, I appreciate that, man. I really do. At the end of the day, when I go live, this is for you guys. I can kind of transition. So this week has been not only hectic with snow, this week has seemed to open up a door of customers that have never been here before, coming either from like YouTube, Instagram, and they message me asking questions on products that they're going to buy from somebody else. Now, I'm going to go here a little bit, and we have a new little thing coming up on YouTube. Not everybody's going to like it. Basically, it's kind of documenting everything that I do in a daily kind of type period. So this week has been hectic. We were closed. I think we were closed Tuesday, but I still managed to come to work. You're going to see a little bit behind the scenes. It's not going to be for everybody. Don't get me wrong. A lot of guys are going to think it's boring as hell. That's fine. But what that ultimately I want to showcase is what you deal with as a business owner. And this week, I'll even say this too. Chelsea answers the phones up front. She literally told me today someone demanded to talk to a tech. Not only did they demand it, they said she pretty much wouldn't know what she was talking about because she was a female. And then when Chelsea said, "Well, all our techs are in the back. Our techs don't get paid to come up front to talk," he literally hung up on her. So this was stuff on a daily basis that's going to be covered. And while I'm mentioning this too, because this is all for you guys. So, and I'm trying to keep a routine pattern. If Thursday doesn't work for people or Monday's better, I'm open for ideas. YouTube video that I mentioned will launch tomorrow. I'm trying to make sure that my face is not always involved in YouTube, so we're trying to kind of incorporate more tech. But there's a lot of segments that I don't know where to put. So I figured this would be good. And somebody asked me to keep doing shop expansion videos. And ultimately, I got to finish my office, but expansion is almost done. Jason asked if we rebuild motors. Yes, we do, Jason. We rebuild motors. Anything from Hondas and Nissans. I got a little bit of a rare Nissan motor I'm rebuilding. I also have a 2JZ motor that is over here as I'm kind of pointing. I got a 5.0 motor that I'm rebuilding, a 5.0 out of a Mustang. I have an LS motor that I will personally be rebuilding, and it's my own motor. I'm going to document, of course. So yes, we can rebuild motors, and we rebuild a wide variety of motors, but I don't do OEM rebuilds. So if you're looking for an OEM rebuild, I don't do it. Cost effective, it's not cost effective. We can do an aftermarket rebuild for pretty much the same price, and it can handle more power. So as we're over here, and anybody got questions, let me know. We have a data log, and what you're going to see as you continue to move your data log, all the sensors up here are going to change. So this is a key thing that I tell people, that if you got a laptop, before you come in tune, if the car is running, even at idle, you can see if your alternator is charging. Alternator on this car is reading 14.3. You can see if your engine coolant temperature is where it should be at. This one's at 161. Now this one, of course, is during a pull. So what you're going to see here as we increase, the throttle is open up now, 101%. That's fine. Of course, we're going up in speed, but look at the duty cycle here. The duty cycle of the injectors. As we go higher and higher, we're also seeing boost start the build, 4.6 psi. 5.3 psi. Look at the duty cycle climbing. We're going to get to the very end now. The duty cycle is at 78%. We're only at 7.3 psi. We got a little bit more RPM to go because we're at 6,300 RPM. Now we're at 6,800 RPM, 89% duty cycle. And at the very top end, 7,100 RPMs. We're at 10 psi, and we're at 100% duty. What I would like to have duty cycle be at is about 80%. That's the rule of thumb. As your injectors start to increase, your duty cycle starts to increase, they can no longer actually do what they're supposed to do, and they get stuck open, or they just can't close, which once that happens, you're going to get a lean point in the setup, and that can literally destroy a motor within, it can happen in one pull. So just wanted to show here a little bit of a data log, because questions are a little bit slow today, and that's fine. Testing out the new software and the new program, making sure it all works. And as you can see, everything else, your battery voltage is dropping a little bit. It's 13.7 right now voltage. That could be normal. It could be a little bit of a belt slip, because before we started doing that pull, we're at 14.2. So something to look into and kind of consider there. But that's just a quick way to how to read data log. Now the other thing I will show you guys, if you're new to this, and all programs are pretty much like this. If you open your fuel tables, let's say your car is running lean at a specific spot. You open up your fuel tables, and now what you're going to have to do is open up your data log and shrink your data log. So we have two windows open now. We have the data log open on top of the fuel tables. as we go with the data log, you're going to see in the tables, we're actually going to be following it. See? And this table right now is set up for an all motor table. There's no boost. So if you want to set up for boost, you go up here to options. You could show boost tables, which is 0 to 1.8 bar. You can show the 3 bar tables or a 4 bar table. Now, just because you're running a 4 bar can handle 43 psi. Doesn't, well, let me say Hondata reads it out to 43. Doesn't mean you're going to hit 43. So let's just say you want to just, you want to see just as normal boost tables. You're only going to hit 7 pounds. Well, this goes up to 11.9. Makes your life a little easier. But as you can see here, as we go with the data log over here, it is literally going to follow exactly where you should be. So if you got a little bit of a lean spot, you want to add some more fuel, you can go down here, highlight this area. Let's say you're really lean, and I just want to go drastic here so you can see the changes. Let's add 40% of fuel. Let's see that kind of open up and get higher. So, offside question, are all-wheel drive conversions worth it for a street Honda? So that's kind of a loaded question. So basically, repeat it one more time. So if guys are listening this after hours on the way to work, maybe going to bed, and they get to hear my sweet voice, basically want to know if your Honda will benefit all-wheel drive if it's on the street. Yes, 100%. So now the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, what are you trying to do with that car on the street? Do you want to be competitive with illegal activities down in Mexico? If you want to be competitive at that point, then yes, 100% all-wheel drive is going to help you hook on the street, depending on your power. Now, back before we had all-wheel drive Hondas that are literally everywhere, and guys are joyriding in the snow but getting traction, we had something that we still have, excuse me, which is boost by gear, which basically will set your boost to different PSI per gear. So let's say your max boost is 20 PSI. Well, of course, first gear, 20 PSI, all you're going to do is spin. So boost by gear will enable us to have first gear have 7 pounds of boost. Second gear, you want to ramp up boost because as you're driving down the road, it's going to be a little less likely for you to spin. We can add a little bit more boost, a little bit more power. We're going to ramp it up to like 10 PSI. Well, third gear, if you're really romping on it, you're probably doing about maybe 60, 70. It's going to be a little bit easier to grab traction. So third gear will ramp it up to 21 PSI or whatever your boost target is at. So is all-wheel drive worth it on the street? Comes down to how much money you have in your pocket, how much money you want to invest into that car. Is it needed? No. A lot of guys, for a long period of time, we didn't have all-wheel drive setups like that. Is it going to become the norm? Yes, to a point. You're going to start seeing them a lot more, which you already have, but it's not needed. So you got to ask yourself that big question. So Alejandro, Alejandro asked, if you're just listening, what horsepower do you recommend to go all-wheel drive? I don't really want to put it on a horsepower type level. It really just comes down to what you're doing with the car. Some guys dedicate their cars to fully doing highway pulls. We've had guys in the past where it's just, all I do is highway pulls. I don't do any digs. That's not me. I don't do any launches. Then I necessarily wouldn't recommend all-wheel drive for that application. We have guys running as high as 500-600 horsepower on street cars with boost by gear set up properly, and they're grabbing traction. The other thing you got to consider, unless you have everything already, maybe you have a donor car, all-wheel drive, to do it right, to do it correctly, is not cheap. Now, there's other companies out there that are starting to sell cheaper and cheaper parts, but if you start digging into those problems guys are having, we're talking about major issues that you're putting your life on the line. And this ain't just no like BS, like, hey, I do 100 on the highway. You know, major issues, the geometry with the rear suspension, the trailing arms. So you don't want to skimp out when you're doing all-wheel drive. Comes down to a safety factor issue too. A lot of guys are young. I get that. A lot of guys feel like they're untouchable. Um, but there's way too many times where I'll open my Facebook up and I'll see somebody such and such passed away because they got in an accident. Such and such died because they, you got to take in all that consideration. So there's not really a number that I would say, hey, yeah, you have 500 horsepower on this Civic, go all-wheel drive. I talked to you a little bit about this too, though. It sounds like you might be a good candidate for it. Just lay it all out, see what you want to do, and then ultimately too, though, we were talking about doing it on your H22 setup. The H22 setup right now, yes, they have more and more stuff coming out for the H22, but you can get more stuff for the Bs or the K series when it comes down to that. So Marco asked, what part of Mexico is the races at? Everybody always says down in Mexico, so somewhere in Mexico, but it always looks like familiar places that are down. I'm not gonna, down, whatever. So it's a quiet night. Gotta flip over here and see. We still got some people in here. See how long I've been live here. This is all a lot of stuff happened. Got my camera over here. Got my laptop over here. Got to shut the heater off, so now it's quiet. We've been live for 47 minutes. Not bad. So I pretty much ran through everything on Hondata. And if you're not familiar, we have Haltech coming out. If you've been interested in the Haltech stuff that we're doing, you've already been in talk with us, but we have some big stuff coming up here in the next week or so, which is going to ultimately be the set for the Haltech being full out retail on our website. We got some cool things going on in that end. Talked about YouTube. I took a little notes down. I talked about the podcast. Talked about the beer. Like I said, I appreciate and you're here. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for the beer. I'm gonna go run and shut that heater off really quick. Kind of annoying. Okay, so I'm back. What's going on, Jake? How you doing? If you're just joining me now, Jake, we have a little bit of a new live kind of scenario here. Not only do we have about a 15-20 second delay, um, we actually have programs in the back that are doing something. So a little bit new here, a little bit trying some stuff new out. Maybe I'll get Mega Squirt up here one day. We have Hondata up and we have Haltech right now. So that's what's going on. Having a good night. Hopefully everyone else is having a good night. Hopefully everyone's having a good week. If you're not in Illinois or familiar with Illinois and you don't watch the news, we got hit hard. We got hit hard with snow, and it's not stopping. We're over in Bridgeview over here. I think we got about 13 inches the one day, and then we got a bunch too the other day. So I got another question here. What's going on, Jose? So, Jose asks, I don't know if it's been asked, but what do you like to see done on customers' cars that come to the dyno, the do's and don'ts? So, Jose, so we actually have a dyno checklist. Dyno checklist is about 4 pages long. I don't have one on me, or else I would show you guys. But the dyno checklist is going to have anything and everything on there that is very important to for me to tune a car. It comes down to basic stuff. Is your car leaking any kind of fluids? Oil, coolant, transmission, power steering fluid. If you got a couple drips here and there, not a huge deal. Not the end of the world. I'm not going to scald you, not going to yell at you, make fun of you, not going to charge you a cleanup fee. If your car is dripping a constant stream of oil, well, it shouldn't be on the dyno, let alone the street. The other stuff, too, that a lot of people forget about is little stuff. And I was showing everybody on Hondata earlier how to read your battery voltage. Make sure your alternator's charging. A whole tune goes off of your alternator charging and voltage. That is very important. As I have Haltech open here, you're going to see on Haltech there's something called dead times as well. And that goes all off the voltage and whatnot. So that is very important, but overlooked. Of course, make sure your electrical is all good. Make sure you have, if your car has 120,000 miles on it, make sure you have brand new spark plugs in it. What I'm starting to actually see on 9th gen Civics, that the front and this is a weird little issue, but the front O2 sensors are starting to react super slow, and they're some of them are actually just dying out. If your car's got 120,000 miles, should you replace an O2 sensor for peace of mind? I recommend it. I definitely do, especially on those cars, to be able to control closed loop, which goes off the front O2 sensor. It's very important. So we do have a checklist. If you want a checklist, just shoot me a message on Facebook or shoot us an email. And we're going to skip over that, but Jake just said, make sure all your nuts and bolts are tightened, especially the compressor housing. Jake knows firsthand, and we did a video on YouTube about how his turbine housing was just loose and almost hanging off on the dyno. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. There's what you guys got to remember. I've been doing this now, like I said, it's 21. I turned 37 last year. I'm sorry, last month. It's been like 21 years of doing this. The stuff that I see. I'll never forget the story too, where I asked the guy if he's been working on his car lately. He said no, and I opened up the engine bay and there was a beer bottle in it, like a fresh beer bottle that he was clearly somebody was in there working and drinking. But I don't scald anybody. Now, the biggest thing too I tell people is don't lie. Let's say it's a turbo car and you can't do a boost leak test. On our dyno waiver, it says, did you do a boost leak test? Well, we're going to know if you lie and you're leaking boost because obviously you didn't do a boost leak test. It makes my job that much harder. We charge $120 for a boost leak test if you can't do it. It's smart money to invest. You're trying to get, and I don't, this is how big of a boost leak is okay? None. You're trying to gain all that power by throwing a turbo on it. And Jake, I'm just using this as an example. It has nothing to do with you. But you want all that power going in your engine bay. That also, as I kind of put it back to real life situations, well, I'm working out today, working out this week, trying to lose weight. Can I have one beer? Well, yeah, but it's going to hinder your performance. You're kind of going against what you're trying to do. You're trying to get healthier, trying to lose weight or whatever. Is a beer ideal? No, probably not. Is it going to help you mentally? Maybe. Maybe you need that one beer. Now we're going too far off the subject. So John asked, what are some pros and cons for turbo versus supercharger for the 8th gen SI, A20Z3? Which route would you take personally? Okay, so what's going on, David? I just saw your message. I know I got to call you back. Chelsea told me before we went live and before we were doing some technical stuff to make sure we were up and running. I'm going to call you back, David. Tomorrow morning works good for me. Good for me. I gotta call a bunch of other people. Okay, so going back to John, supercharger versus turbo. So personally, if it was my car, now you have to take in consideration how many cars I get into and how 300 horsepower Civic is going to feel a little bit slower because I'm used to tuning, higher 400, 500 horsepower cars. Myself, I'd go with a turbocharger. What you have to consider too, though, is I know what to look for and maintain when doing a turbocharger setup. I also have a whole shop here that if something needs to be changed in an instant, I can pull somebody off something, or I can say, hey, can you knock this out? I know it's going to take a little bit longer in your day. You're getting paid for it. They can handle that. Now, as far as the supercharger setup goes, specifically on the 8th Gen SI, if you do it correctly, you can make a good amount of power where most customers are happy. Now, when I say most customers, I'm talking about, the standard customer that's just looking for more power, not trying to go blow doors off a Lambo that is running 8 seconds at the quarter mile. A supercharger is going to be a little bit more reliable. It's an enclosed unit. Everything is pretty much enclosed. From what I've seen over many of years, turbochargers like to heat up more. They like to cause more heat in the engine bay. They like to cause more vibration. Stuff will want to rattle loose. You might have an oil leak here or there. Knock on wood, we rarely ever see issues with couplers blowing off. Yes, supercharger and turbocharger both have couplers, but the thing about a turbocharger too is, you're driving, and then at a certain RPM, you kind of get that turbocharger really kicking in, so it's a little bit harder on your transmission. Most guys, and we've set up millions of guys on Craftworks supercharger kits, are happy. A couple guys that want to switch over, you also have to take in consideration, since the turbo is going to be a little bit more harsher on your transmission. We know how the K-Series transmissions are. They're kind of like glass. You look at them wrong, they're going to blow up. So depends on your goals and where you're at, but supercharger keeps a lot of people happy. So Jake, you asked, you'll be putting a 6-speed transmission from your 5-speed into your Miata. Should you wait to do boost by gear until you swap? No, I recommend doing boost by gear right now. Your car's making enough power that you're already starting to lose traction. The Miata is a smaller platform anyway, so when you start making anything over 200, 250 horsepower, you start having traction issues, and it becomes fun when you're going into corners, I will say that. I recommend boost by gear. And then when you do the 6-speed setup, you can do boost by gear too. You can set it up. I myself, Megasquirt is a little bit iffy on how stuff wants to work. If you're running Megasquirt, excuse me, I would recommend the Cortex setup, because if you look at the Cortex setup and how it's set up and how it works constantly and never has issues, a lot of guys will be blown away by it. Which, if you're interested in it, hit me up. I'll let you know the price, and I will walk you through the whole setup of how to work the Cortex Sriracha Labs boost by gear stuff. And at the end of the day, you're going to be probably blown away, not only how easy it is, but how reliable and how it always works. That's what's the best thing about those. So with that being said, since we are on a little bit of a delay, and I appreciate all the questions, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, make sure I have no more questions before I wrap up. We have 12 people here, been here for about 58 minutes. We'll pretty much wrap up at the hour mark. Hopefully you guys enjoyed everything. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the little background stuff, and as I progress here on doing stuff, and as I finish my office that is upstairs, we got to do the drop ceilings, which me and Victor are supposed to be doing those soon. I'll have a dedicated area up there to do not only more live videos, but to do more content that is going to really help you guys out. And then just do walkthrough videos like this that I've been doing, which should help you guys out, set up your own tune, and ultimately, education, knowledge, it's power in your brain. So unless you really don't want anything to do with this stuff, as I always tell people, you want to continue to grow. You want to continue to learn new stuff, and that will help you succeed. So Jake, you said you'd be going with the Cortex as I recommended. Would it need a retune after the 6-speed swap? Jake, so ultimately when you go with the Cortex boost by gear, I'm going to have to reset it up. Best bet is the Dyno. You've been a loyal customer. You've brought me donuts and beer. You've been here many of times. Shoot us a message on the Dyno stuff and the Cortex stuff, and I'll make sure I help you out. And so, with that being said, as I wrap up here, and if you're just joining in, if you're watching it later, I already talked about it. These videos are here to help you guys. As we continue to grow here and we expand it, and we are looking to keep expanding and keep growing, trying to get more content out there. And this week has been a little rough, not only with the phone call today where Chelsea literally got hung up on because she was a female and she wouldn't know his specific car because, as he said, it was a special car. He demanded to talk to somebody that was in the back. He demanded to talk to a tech. And my guys don't get paid to talk like that. If you're a loyal customer, give you what you need. We continue to support you because you support us. I do live videos. Could be a complete stranger on Thursday nights. Don't even need to know you. I will offer you the support. With that being said, my comments have died down. I let the delay kind of kick in. I appreciate everybody. I'm going to try to close out of here, and hopefully I'm successful. I'm going to finish my beer up. This one was sponsored by Wade. Appreciate you, Wade. Hopefully you didn't fall off your roof shoveling. You guys have a great week. Have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. And I'll be back here. And maybe I'll be back here sooner than Thursdays. If anybody's watching this after hours, because we only got a couple more people in the room, let me know if any other days work better for you guys. Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm here for you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys make this work. Without you guys, there'd be nothing here. We wouldn't be what we were, what we are. Thank you guys.